Hello y'all, and welcome to YoungFolkKnits. Today I'm going to share all about brand new knitting patterns from December. Hello y'all, and welcome back to YoungFolkKnits. If you're new here, my name is Casey, and on this channel I share all about my love of fiber arts. Occasionally I also share about living on a small farm here in Arkansas, so if any of that sounds like it might be your cup of tea, make sure and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future video content. You can also find me on Instagram at YoungFolk.knits and on Ravelry at YoungFolkKnits. Today we're going to be diving into the wonderful world of newly released knitting patterns, specifically from the month of December, including ones from top designers, new designers, and hidden gems. So let's get started. First of all, some patterns you very well may have seen from top designers like Petite Knit. She released her Key sweater, which is a striped colorwork Aran weight sweater. So this is actually an 18 stitch gauge, and it is knit with stripes, but the stripes have a nice little detail of a few rows of color work, and those color work actually looks like the end of a key. So cute little detail there. This pattern is worked top down with raglan increases on the yoke, and it has some short rows after the neck rib edge to shape the neckline. And then the body and sleeves are worked in the round and finished with rib edges. That sounds like a classic winner to me. This actually is knit with Peruvian by Filcolana, held together with Alva by Filcolana. So that's how you're getting that Aran weight gauge. But the fabric shouldn't be too dense. It should still have a little bit of drape to it. Andrea Mowry also released two new patterns, and that is the Plumped Up Cowl and the Plumped Up Harlow. So both of these are the same stitch pattern. They're both that basic brioche in a bulky weight gauge. These patterns were both designed using Spin Cycle's Plump base, and there is actually a knit along right now hosted by Spin Cycle using their Plump base. So these are two great projects that are fast. They knit up in a short amount of time, but I still really like the rhythm of brioche. It keeps it interesting. I like the way the decreases are done on the hat. It's definitely something that is, you know, that bigger gauge. It's a little bit bulkier, and I like hats usually that are maybe a worsted weight or DK weight. That's sort of my go-to favorite weight for hats, but this would definitely keep you warm. And I think that that kerchief style or bandana style shawl is a great one knit on the bias and then sewn together. It creates a customizable fit because you can change how far you sew the two ends together to get the fit that you want. And I think that those are both great gift knits as well. There's so many wonderful patterns that I cannot wait to share with you. This month really was jam-packed with some fabulous ones. But before we get into the rest of the patterns, I'd like to say a quick thank you to today's sponsor, which is Craftsy. Craftsy is an online community where literally millions of crafters, makers, and DIY lovers like ourselves can find creative inspiration and learn new skills. Now, if you're not new here, you'll have heard me mention how invaluable Craftsy has been on my spinning journey. The instructors, the visuals, everything was so instrumental in me learning how to spin. But another area I really love is cross stitching. I think cross stitching is a great craft to dive into because it doesn't have a huge amount of lead-in time on getting started. Even with its less challenging nature though, there are tips, tricks, and techniques which can make your finished object look beautiful. Because of that, a class I really recommend is Cross Stitch Basics and Beyond, which is taught by Jeanette Douglas. It teaches you how to build your go-to toolkit of cross stitch basics, helps you avoid mistakes, and then get those beautiful results. not only do you get these tips and tricks, but during the class you actually work on a sampler that teaches you how to do things from separating the strands in your floss, anchoring your threads, reading from charts, and all the fundamental techniques you don't even realize you need to know before you get started. So I think this is a great way to add that new craft into your repertoire. One of the reasons I am so excited to be partnering again with Craftsy this month is because as a multi-craftual maker, I love sewing, design, cooking, embroidery, cross stitch, spinning, knitting, crochet, quilting, and you can find classes for all of these things and more. Plus, you can connect with fellow makers and DIY lovers to share inspiration, ask questions, and make fun connections. So the first 1,000 people to click the link in my description will receive a 1-year premium membership for only $1.49. If you would like to up your craft game, then make sure and check out Craftsy and don't miss the chance at this amazing prize. Thank you so much, Craftsy, for sponsoring today's video. Speaking of beautiful cross-stitch motifs, there were some beautiful patterns released that had lovely colorwork motifs. One of them I fell in love with is a free pattern, and it is some really pretty mittens designed by Tracy Scott. So these are the FlowerFest mittens, and I love a free pattern. Now these do come in one size, which are women's medium, but I bet you could change the gauge on these by using a larger needle and a larger yarn weight to get a bigger size, or go down a needle size to make them a little bit smaller if you needed to. These were designed in Knit Picks palette, which I think is an awesome yarn to use for mittens, and they have some beautiful colors. I absolutely love the higher contrast, and that orangey red is one I will never get tired of. So these are a beautiful pattern. I would absolutely add them to my library. Another pair of mittens that caught my eye were the Sawtooth Mittens designed by Jessica McDonald. Jessica is an absolutely wonderful designer, and these mittens were no exception. These are going to be a worsted weight, so this is Harrisville Designs Highland base used in the sample, knit on a recommended US 7 or 4.5 millimeter needle. So these are going to knit up faster than those fingering weight mittens, and I love this classic sawtooth quilt design. I mentioned it before, the quilt design is having a moment and it is not over yet. So these have adult, small, medium, and large, so 3 different sizes, and I think these are beautiful. I love the classic colors used, and I think they would be a treasured gift as well. A few more fun accessories. One of them is the Karol hot water bottle cover. Now, I recently knit the Maxine hot water bottle cover by Laura Penrose, and I'm telling you what, hot water bottle covers are having a moment as well. This is a pattern in a worsted weight design, recommending a US 7 or 4.5 millimeter needle as well, and I just really love the texture. It's very simple. It uses one color of yarn, but I think it could also be fun if you did each textured stripe in a different colored yarn. Maybe you have some scraps you want to use. So I think that could end up looking really cute, but personally, I love the chicness, as you know, as if your hot water bottle heater needs to look chic, but if you're chic, all of your things need to look chic as well. So this is just really beautiful, classic, minimalist texture design. I love it. The pattern sample was knit with Knit Picks Wool of the Andes worsted, which I think is a great yarn as well. Love that classic ribbed cuff. Everything about this is just adorable, and I think it would make a beautiful gift. A lovely hat that was released is the Cold Foam Cap, which was designed by Samantha Guerin, one of my all-time favorite designers. This is a DK weight pattern, and it has some beautiful cables that are not your classic cable. They almost look like smocking, and I just absolutely love how the ribbing of this hat goes into those cables. So I think it turned out really beautiful. You can knit the brim of this hat longer or shorter to get the fold that you want, and I think this is beautiful knit up in the Lavender Loon yarn, organic DK. I think that's lovely, but DK yarn is something a lot of us have in stash. So this uses 155 to 225 yards. Depending on how long you made your brim, you could probably get away with making one of these with a single skein of DK. If you wanted to knit a longer brim with a bigger fold over cuff, you might possibly need to dip into a second skein, but I think this is absolutely beautiful. Another pattern genre that I am seeing everywhere, and this is not an exaggeration, everywhere, are the snoods, the scarf hoods. I'm just seeing them all over the place. So a free design that I found is the Capucharpe. Not sure how to say that. It was designed by Caledonia Dreamin. It's a DK weight gauge, and it's knit with a recommended US 6 or 4mm needle. It's a free Ravelry download, and again, it's that mix between a hood and a scarf. So you can wear it down, wrapped around you as a scarf, or as it's wrapped around you, you can have the hood part up over your head, and I think it gives that very vintage, classic chic look. I think that the right color in this would just look like a screen siren from the 40s or the 50s or the 60s. I think this is beautiful. So very fun pattern style. If you want to jump on the trend, hurry up and make one this month. Sari Nordlund released a few lovely sweaters, including the Stars Hollow pullover, which is an Aran weight gauge, and she knit this with Kelburn Woolen's Lucky Tweed. This is a yarn I would like to try, and I think I would really like to try it in the color that she used. They have some lovely colors. Yarn store I would usually order it from does not have a large quantity in stock though, so I'm gonna wait, and this might be a yarn I'll try next year. It is absolutely lovely though, and it reminds me of a classic oversized creamy Aran sweater that Rory wore in one of the earlier episodes. Very classic New England creamy sweater though. Really love it. Sari also released a pattern called the Ebba Pullover. So Sari designed this mainly for ones who wanted the look of cables without actually having to cable. So this gives you that beautiful textured cabled look, but it is achieved with lace stitches instead of cable stitches. I think it's beautiful. I love knitting cables. I have no issue knitting cables. I would still love to knit this just because I think it's a beautiful sweater. She was apparently on the Kelburn Woolen's train because this was knit in Kelburn Woolen's Scout, which is a DK weight wool yarn, and I think that the color is beautiful. It's a very classic modern brown color, and I think it looks great with her blonde hair. I just think she looks really cute in that. This is a great sweater to get that all over textured look, and Sari does a great job of having a beautiful size range to choose from. Speaking of textured sweaters, a few lovely ones that were released. First of all was the Waffle Loop cardigan, which is a pattern designed by Otherloops. This is a DK weight gauge, possibly worsted. It's a 21 stitch gauge, so I would use a DK weight to achieve that. And it just has a very simple, beautiful, all over textured pattern to the fabric. I love how Otherloops makes the basics but elevated, basics but better patterns, and this cardigan is no exception to the rule. I love a good drop shoulder, and I think that this has all of the qualities of a great sweater. The size range is not that great though. The circumference goes from 108 centimeters to 140 centimeters. So Cheryl from Cocoa and More Knits released her beautiful Windermere sweater. I am a huge fan of half fisherman's rib. Sometimes it does hurt my hands to work it in the round and small circumference, but I think that it's just so classic and squishy and beautiful, and this is no exception. It has a twisted rib neckline that you fold over for that folded neck, and then you work the yoke. It is top down. It has some nice short rows to create a lovely fitting neck. along with raglan increases. I believe it's worked on a US 7 needle or 4.5 millimeter, and it has a worsted weight gauge. It looks like knitting for olive heavy merino and a Sari was used for this fabric. So it has that beautiful blurred effect from the Sari, a little bit of a halo, but half fisherman's rib is just so textured. It's really beautiful. There were also some gorgeous colorwork sweaters, including one by Trin-Annelie. So this is the Iris sweater, and it is an all over gorgeous colorwork sweater. It is a drop shoulder, so you will be working colorwork flat for some portions of this. Melissa from Sonder Yarn Co. actually messaged me and asked if we were going to be testing this sweater, and I was very tempted to apply to test it a few months ago until we saw the gauge that it was knit on. And after we looked at a few more details, we decided we would rather knit it when it was released instead of knit it on the deadline for testing. Common sense prevailed, but it is absolutely beautiful and stunning, and part of what makes this absolutely sing is the color choices that the designer used. I think it is so beautiful. It is knit with Holst Garn Super Soft, and it's knitted a 28 stitch gauge, so classic fingering weight sweater gauge there. But talk about a beautiful sweater. I would love to hear suggestions for colors that are not the colors used in this. I think that these same colors, but used inversely, would be beautiful with a background of that caramel color instead of the white, and maybe trade those out. I think that would be lovely. I can see a lot of different options here, but I really, really like the original colors still put together in some form or fashion. Lene Home Samsto, which I know I never pronounced correctly, but Knit released the Margaret sweater. So this is a beautiful bulky weight gauge colorwork yoke sweater, and it has a lovely classic design. I think that Nordic flower is just beautiful, and I really love the original colors as well, but I think this could be so pretty with an espresso brown as the background and some similar colors still used, like with some red in there. I think it's so pretty. This bulky weight 16 stitch gauge knit on a US 10 or 10.5, that's gonna knit up fairly quickly. This would be a great color work option without the commitment of that 28 stitch gauge sweater we just chatted about. Still in the colorwork department, Teti Lutzak has been at it again, and she released her Candelariella pullover. That was a mouthful. So this is another 28 stitch gauge fingering weight sweater knit on a 3mm needle, but that yoke is beautiful. Teti is so wonderful with those little details and touches, and I think this is a beautiful color work chart. I like how her circular yoke sweaters fit, and I think this one has a nice little touch even of recommending the accent color at the top of the ribbing for the neckline. I think it's just absolutely beautiful. I really feel like for these colorwork sweaters, a wool yarn with some grip makes knitting the colorwork and keeping the colorwork motif in place so much easier. So I'm a huge fan of 100% wool for these colorwork sweaters. Those wool yarns make it more enjoyable to knit, and I think that they really make the colorwork pop. So a vest that caught my eye was designed by Otherloops, and I really like the simple detail of the cables, the antler style cables that start at the shoulder and follow the neck shaping all the way down, and then the two meet and continue down the center panel. Not only that, but I think the large ribbing, it looks like it could be 3x1 or 4x1 ribbing. I think it adds a nice touch to the sides of the cables, and it gives something a little bit different than just being packed and crammed full of cables that we're used to seeing with multiple sweater and vest designs, which I like too, but I think this is something a little bit different and nice. It's an Aran weight gauge, so It has 18 stitches. It recommends a US 7 or 4.5 millimeter for what you need to achieve gauge. I really love the versatility of vests. I think they're a great item to add to your wardrobe and can be utilized for so much longer during the year than big woolly sweaters might be. For all of those who love a good basic sweater, the back yoke sweater was released by Noriko Ichikawa, and this was knit with a sport weight gauge using Rerum Natura Ulisse. It's absolutely beautiful. So Melissa from Sonder Yarn Co. actually tested this sweater as well and said that it has such a unique and fun construction. If you look at that back panel, you can see how it is knit and then stitches are picked up and knit in a different direction. I think it's really beautiful. I love the shape, and I especially love the mock neck where the collar is not folded down and sewn. I think knit in a classic color makes this something that would last forever, and it has a lovely size range. Sport weight sweaters are my favorite too because the fabric they create has the less bulk, similar to a fingering weight, but it knits up at a slightly faster gauge than a light fingering weight sweater does. So I feel like it has the best of both worlds, and this is a sweater I really want to try. I feel like it's one you could knit up in so many colors and it would be a pattern you would use over and over again in your library. One more fun sweater that caught my eye was published from Rain Knitwear Designs, and it is the Inner Peace sweater. This is a really fun silhouette. I like the fact that it's cropped. I like the fact that it's top down. I like the fact that it's seamless, but it has a really nice drop shoulder design. I love the neck shaping, and I think it has a bit of a high-low hem that would be so pretty to wear over dresses and have it hit that very flattering point at your waist. I think this would be an absolute star to have in your library because I'm always trying to figure out the right length to knit sweaters so that they are very flattering to wear with dresses, and I think this is going to have some great information on getting that perfect fit. It's knit at an Aran weight or 16 stitch gauge. So this is going to be something that knits up fairly quickly. I have some yarn that would work great in this fabric as well. So that's what I'm adding to my list for sure. The last pattern I want to share is one designed by Ashley Adams, or designed by so-and-so on Instagram. This is a beautiful colorwork sock pattern that was actually initially released in 2022, but Ashley has completely redone the pattern. There is more sizes added, so it's more inclusive, as well as some new charts. It's a beautiful colorwork design. It definitely makes me think of Taylor Swift vibes and Harry Styles. Are we out of the woods? Great pattern to use for that sock yarn that you've got setting in your yarn cabinet. It's knit with the classic sock weight gauge on US 1s or US 1.5 for the colorwork motif. It has a really beautiful, sturdy looking heel, and I love that the colorwork is not overwhelming. There's just enough colorwork on the cuff, and then you get to knit a very relaxing stockinette sock until you get to the end, where you can choose to add a very beautiful but quick last colorwork chart before you start the toes. So I really like this pattern, and I have some exciting news. Ashley has offered to give away one of these patterns to a viewer. So if you would like to be entered to win one of these patterns gifted digitally to you, then let me know in the comments just by typing something to do with Out of the Woods so I know that you're interested in the pattern. Thank you, Ashley. You are the sweetest. I know everyone would be excited to knit these. All right, y'all, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. If you enjoy videos like this, then please give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to check out Craftsy for that amazing deal, and also make sure and comment for a chance to win the Out of the Woods sock pattern. I hope you have a wonderful end of the month, and I can't wait to catch up soon. Happy knitting, y'all.